Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the DeFi and DEXs panel. We are here to discuss about trading on-chain, so trading activities that happen on the blockchain itself. And we have, my name is Mikko Ohtama. I'm from a company called tradingstrategy.ai, and we have awesome panel here, and I will let the panelists to introduce themselves, and I think we can start with Ashish.
Thanks, Mikko. Hi everyone. Good morning in Japan. I'm Ashish from India, from Blue Finance, and we are creating asset-backed bonds market in the DeFi space. Over to you, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Gogel. I'm the head of growth and operations at the DYDX Foundation. DYDX is one of the leading decentralized exchanges for perpetuals trading, currently on Ethereum using ZK rollups on layer 2. We're fully non-custodial, and recently announced plans to launch the next version of the protocol built on Cosmos later this year.
Also, hi, I'm Wilson Huang. I'm founder of XY Finance. XY Finance is the infrastructure for Metaverse. We have the cross-chain swap aggregator and Dynamic NFT. We have support 12 chains on EVM, and we support 97% of TVL. So we allow the user to swap any token on any chain to any token, any chain. And also our dynamic NFT allow our NFT holders change their trades on chain. And you can change the metadata and the image on OpenSea. So we help the GameFi project to develop Web3 game, play to learn GameFi. Yeah, this much about XY Finance.
Right, thank you everybody. And to warm up and get everybody excited, let me first poll on the audience, like how many of you have been using DeFi, MetaMask, or even buying NFTs? If you have been using MetaMask, please raise your hand. Oh, one, that's Japan is the promised land of the MetaMask, I guess. So, and for the rest of the audience that don't know DeFi and DEXs yet, so I think we can start by diving into a question: what's the difference between the CeFi or centralized finance and SECs or centralized exchanges, as we call them in the crypto, and the decentralized finance? And especially now when we are in the crypto market has taken some nosedive and the people don't like it at much, so we can discuss why DeFi and CeFi are different, and what we can learn about the current market situation. And maybe Ashish can start, like what's your view, how CeFi and DeFi are different, and what do you think this is, why it's important?
So before, because some of the people, if they have not been into DeFi space, so let's talk a bit before CeFi itself. Let's talk about what is, so in the crypto market, we traditionally talk about three items, three type of financial markets. One is TradFi, traditional finance, so which we have been using for our whole life, banks, mutual funds, stock market exchanges, and so on. Then we have decentralized finance, where, so in traditional finance, there is a third party like a bank. In decentralized finance, we have no third party. So I and you can interact through a decentralized finance protocol directly, peer-to-peer. What is CeFi then? So TradFi and DeFi is well understood. What happened that, because as we know that, it's difficult for many people to interact directly with technology, especially Web3 technology, difficult to maintain wallets, difficult to maintain your own private keys and so on. And that's where some systems came in between who take care of this particular part. So that become the centralized finance. So you have traditional finance and DeFi on two extremes, but in between, say for example, there is a huge entity called, so everybody must have used something like Binance, etc. So they are centralized finance exchanges. They work for the Web3 technology, but in between there is a centralized entity which is taking care of number of aspects of our business. Similarly, in the decentralized finance lending space, there are still entities like Celsius or Voyager and still others who actually took money from people like us and then invested or traded or lent into decentralized finance market, because there is a centralized entity which is taking care of the two sides of the business, so it becomes centralized finance. And that is where we are seeing the contagion effect happening. So what was the core promise of DeFi? The core promise of DeFi was open systems. Everybody will know what is happening, the risk will be known to everyone. But when the CeFi came into picture, we actually went back to what we had been doing. And that's where we are seeing a lot of bankruptcies filing happening and other stuff, which is actually creating this bear market. So many lessons learned, actually speaking, that how CeFi actually hid the risk, how that created the systematic risk. I'm sure that we will be talking about that at a later stage.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example. And the current market environment and the bear market really is a great just like image of the pros and cons between CeFi and DeFi. To me, the biggest difference really is around custody of funds and openness and transparency of transactions. So when you think about trading in DeFi or a decentralized exchange, typically you're trading via a smart contract, but you as a user always retain custody of your funds at all time. There's a saying in crypto, not your keys, not your crypto. DeFi really is the opportunity for you to be your own bank, to have agency over your funds, to deposit, withdraw, and not trust a centralized intermediary with managing your funds. While CeFi, in a lot of ways, acts as the gateway to crypto, right? Like most people have traditional assets, they have fiat, they have traditional currencies, and they need to get onboarded onto Web3. So centralized exchanges play a role in that on-ramp, but they take your funds or user funds as deposits, right? And so you don't actually control those funds. If there's a hack or an employee goes rogue or there's an issue with the technology, you can lose your funds. You can clearly go to the traditional legal system and try to recover funds if a company goes into bankruptcy. But in effect, you're handing control over your assets to someone else, and that whole system is predicated on you having to trust that person and or having to trust the legal system to be able to recuperate your funds in the event of a loss. I think the beauty of these open source protocols and DeFi in general is that you don't actually have to trust someone else. All you have to do is trust the code that is public, that's open, that anyone can audit, and the longer these DeFi protocols survive, every hacker around the world is trying to hack them at all times. So there's some element of the longer it survives, the more robust it is, and the better the security. And so to me, the big difference is on the custodial side, and then B, on the openness and transparency. A lot of the recent failures in the market, again, are all tied to centralized entities that had really opaque operations, that were taking on leverage, at times under collateralized leverage, and we're seeing massive write-downs across the industry. I think if you look at major lending protocols like Aave, like Compound, like Maker, yes, they had with like funds being withdrawn, but the whole system worked really well and as designed. And I think the recent downturn just shows a lot of the benefits of openness and transparency and how that can be a fairer system for financial services globally.
Yeah, pretty much I agree to the points. Let me summarize. Yeah, I think the pros and cons of DeFi. The pros is DeFi is transparent because you can see any liquidity on the chain, on the Explorer, to the blockchain Explorer. You can see everything on that. You know where the liquidity is not enough, and also the code is auto execute. And yeah, I remember that the Compound Finance founder Robert Leisure, they criticized the Celsius at I think 2021. He has criticized the Celsius is not transparent because they're already over leveraging, where anyone cannot see what's going on. So as you can see, this year the Celsius has some of the problem, and also FUSD, Terra, something like this. So I think the DeFi's advantages of you have the transparency on that, and also you can see everything, and also the permissionless. You can allow with DeFi, you can allow the place that don't have the finance infrastructure, that they cannot access the bank services, but with the MetaMask, with the wallet software, you can access the financial infrastructure, financial service around the world. You can use the lending protocol, either MakerDAO or Compound Finance, and you can trade on Uniswap, SushiSwap. Also, you can trade on XY Finance. So it's a very strong part to allow users to use the financial service for everyone. Yeah, that's the pros of the DeFi. Yeah, that's what I think.
All right, thank you everybody. So if we can summarize this, like the benefit of DeFi is that it's transparent, and when it's transparent, there's less systematic risk. So the meltdown is unlikely, unlike we have seen in traditional finance world, like banking crisis 2008, and now we are seeing it with the crypto bubble that burst. So having open, transparent finance is a way to lower the risk. And then for the next question, we have, since DeFi started, let's say that there was a DeFi summer of year 2020, when the COVID started as well. DeFi has started to mature. It's not mature yet, but it's getting there. We have a Uniswap, we have a decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and XY Finance. Then we have lending pools like Compound and Aave. We have a MakerDAO, that's a decentralized stablecoin. But what's next? Like we have finally had working on-chain finance for the last 2 years, but what's going to happen next? What are the DeFi things for the upcoming 5 years? Is it NFTs? Is it something else? And maybe Wilson, you can start with your DeFi vision first.
Yeah, I think DeFi is keep evolving, right? So as I mentioned before, the trading is very important. So I think the next DeFi the trending, and also I had discussed with a lot of VCs, in this bear market, what project they are interested. I think the trending will turn to the real world asset. Yeah, the real world assets, the solid demand of this market. I think you can see the most successful DeFi right now. One of them is the stablecoin. I think stablecoin is one of the most successful DeFi project. You can see as the USDT, USDC. It's all related to the real world asset, the US dollar, right? They're backed by the US dollar. Yeah, but I exclude the algo stablecoin because they're backed by not a real asset. There's a backed by the token. Something else is, for example, Terra, USD, something like this. So I think The next trend, very important, is the real world asset DeFi. And also, we have the DeFi technology. We have smart contract to represent the real world asset. One is a token. That token, it's a fungible token, so they represent some fiat, like stablecoin. And also the next step, I think, is the object. So the NFT. NFT can represent the different objects, it's non-fungible thing. So NFT can represent the past, the membership, maybe the real asset, or some real asset. So I think you can see a lot of the NFT lending platform that represent the object in the metaverse, or we say in the DeFi market. You can see NFT lending come out, something related to the NFT. The service will come out. You can collateralize your NFT, represent some real world asset in that, and you borrow some stablecoin to buy something you want or to do a leverage. So I think the next DeFi infrastructure will stick with the real world asset. That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been maybe 2-3 years since someone came up with the term DeFi, and it's at times amazing to see how much innovation has really happened in this permissionless environment. To me, I feel like a lot of the 0 to 1 primitives in DeFi have at this point probably been invented. I think we clearly see a lot of different products addressing the same use case with various tweaks. My personal view is that there's likely to be some consolidation in the next 12 to 24 months, really around a number of projects or protocols that are acting kind of as either aggregators or really innovating on the product experience, and moving away from just one-off tweaks to parameter and some crazy token economic system. I think DeFi, going forward is really going to move more towards what users expect from a centralized exchange standpoint. In a lot of ways, DeFi has a lot of benefits, but there's also some clear trade-offs. One of which is just the user onboarding friction, and I think a lot of that tech stack is getting solved today. I'm personally pretty optimistic about the concept of CDeFi, where again, these DeFi protocols act as the underlying pipes, and call it the back office and middle office infrastructure, and then there's a number of solutions, whether they're non-custodial wallets or custodians, really acting as the front ends for these back-end services. So, I think for DeFi really to succeed with a mass market audience, a lot of the complexity still needs to be abstracted away, and people have to engage and use the product, in a similar way. People today use Gmail and the internet without really understanding how HTTP and SMTP work, and it's just really easy. I think DeFi over the next 5 years is really going to embed itself within a larger ecosystem where people are engaging with it without even knowing that they're using DeFi in the back end. In terms of trends, there's a lot going on. I'm personally pretty excited about the financialization of NFTs. I think you talked a little bit about that, but seeing a lot of activity there. I think the other piece that I'm really excited about is just you've seen a lot of, over the last 12 months, people replicate DeFi on various layer ones, and I think all of these layer ones continue to improve pretty exponentially and provide scalability. So I think that even the volume of transactions and the types of complex trades or structures that can occur through settlement on these layer ones, I think we're really just scratching the surface there, and excited to see what's ahead.
I tend to agree with what Wilson and David said. So if we look at actually DeFi, whole of DeFi is essentially a wealth management product. Even the DeFi lending, I mean, we call it lending, looks like it's lending and borrowing. But today, that DeFi is all about how do you lend and borrow for a speculation in the crypto market. That's where 99.9% of DeFi lending is working. The rest of the parts of DeFi are anyway, for example, exchanges, derivatives, all of that is anyway a wealth product. So look at that essentially what has happened, that when Nakamoto came with Bitcoin, he wanted to create an open financial system, free from Wall Street after 2008's crisis. What we have done in 10 years, we have created a replica of Wall Street. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because already that market is serviced by so many players. So in the crypto industry, especially in the DeFi industry, we are actually targeting a very small set of crypto native people. And that's not going to be sustainable at all. From two perspectives, one is that the market size is too small, so there is not much to grow. And the second perspective is then it becomes a niche market, and that will be harmful to the crypto's adoption itself. So going back to what Wilson said, that ultimately we have to have a marriage between the real world and the crypto world. We cannot operate for crypto natives. We have to go to the least common denominator of the humankind. We have to reach out to the people who are, what was the core idea of creating a parallel financial ecosystem? We reach out to the people who are unbanked, who are underbanked, the 25% people of the world who are not serviced by traditional financial institutions. Today, the credit gap in emerging markets is $8 trillion. The total market size of crypto, not only DeFi, the total crypto is less than $1 trillion. How do we base that is what is important for us, and that is where what we see that and how do we do that? That's where what Wilson mentioned, NFTs, real world assets bringing on chain, trading, rather I would say lending activities, going to the people like farmers, smallholder farmers, women who are traditionally excluded, artisans, self-employed people. This is the core where we have a big market which is not serviced by traditional finance. That was crypto's goal. We have forgotten that goal. We have to go there. And thankfully, after this bear market, there is a lot of realization that we are going there. So a lot of actually funding is coming to that sector. Number of projects are coming up. Financialization of NFTs is taking place. So I am pretty bullish on this part that in next 5 years, this will be the biggest thing to happen. But for that, we need to have better onboarding tools, as David mentioned. And so digital ID is something I believe is the core infrastructure that is needed to create this decentralized finance ecosystem for the people who are not actually connected to TradFi. So that will be my 2 cents on this.
Thank you so much. So based on my napkin maths, like maybe there are like 100 million or 200 million Bitcoin holders in the world, but they are not really Bitcoin users. They are just holding Bitcoin, so they are speculating. But for DeFi, we have at least 30 million MetaMask installations, and if you have MetaMask, by definition, you are a user because you need to use your wallet for something. And then probably 20 million users on other chains. I think near protocol alone was 10 million. So we have, let's say that we have 50 million DeFi users today. But we have this vision that we need to bring this open finance to everyone. And we know there are a lot of pain points with DeFi. We have hacks, we have problems with the user experience. But how can we improve this without replicating the crises we had with Celsius and Voyager and other now crashed centralized finance services? What are the biggest improvements we can bring to DeFi so that we can onboard more people? And maybe Ashish, you can go first.
while everybody understands here that the CeFi space has not really been good for the financial ecosystem we are building here in the crypto world. But I believe that the question about how do we bring more people, especially, say for example, I work with farmers in India. We have been lending to farmers against tokenized crop, NFT tokenized crop for last 2 years. Before NFT was a craze, I was creating NFTs. How do we get those farmers? Can I hand over the wallet to them? Unfortunately not. They perhaps don't have any way to keep that seed phrase somewhere, or that 12-word seed phrase. How do they remember that? How do they recover that? These are the practical problems we face. So some degree of services which actually help onboard these people. For example, what I had to do, that we had to actually give a normal Android application, had to bring a degree of centralization to the point of, for the purpose of, so that the farmers can interact with the platform. So we will have, especially if we are looking to serve the people who are not crypto native, especially if we are looking to bring some real world assets on chain, we will have to have reliance upon some traditional systems which tend to be centralized a bit. But how do we bring transparency into that? So that's a big challenge, that how do you bring transparency without compromising on transparency? Can we do something about better onboarding and all? And that's where what I believe that some centralization will be required. But at the same time, we should stop becoming intermediaries. For example, if it is a person who is looking to tokenize their asset and trying to come into DeFi platform, the service provider should only provide the infrastructure rails. They should not become the centralized entity connecting two worlds. They should only provide the infrastructure, allowing anyone to come make use of the infrastructure that has been created for tokenization of their personal assets or so on. Similarly, they can provide infrastructures linking the traditional Web2 technologies, Web3 technologies, but at the same time, they should not represent the borrower, or they should not represent the depositor, or they should not represent the person who is coming onto the DeFi platform. They should allow them to do all the transactions. They should allow them to use the smart contracts, even if the technology on the front end is a Web2 solution, and interact with the back end of the DeFi rails directly. So that is, my opinion, is a very difficult, tight walk on the rope, which we have to manage. How do we avoid centralization, but at the same time, how do we give benefits of Web2 technologies to people and use them to connect to Web3? Quite a big challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Mika, I think your question around how do you bring more users into DeFi and how do you improve kind of the overall user experience is a really important one for the industry to tackle. I think first and foremost, education is really important. The technology is complex. The technology is new. It's only 10 years-ish old, and it's evolving really rapidly. And so even people who work full-time in the space, it requires an army to stay up to date on everything. And so good luck convincing your parents or your grandparents to invest in DeFi when digitally native millennials still struggle to just stay on top of things. So I think the most important is really education, empowering people with information that is accurate, teaching them the skills to get access to all of the data that is publicly available online. Just because the data is open and accessible doesn't mean that your average user understands that data, and I think there just needs to be a lot more non-technical people involved in this space and really communicating what's going on. So I think that's piece number one. I think piece number two is really building better products. I think ultimately people just want to use products that they love, and teams and projects in the space really have to continue to build products that compete and outperform Web 2 type products from a user experience standpoint. So that's really thinking about the user onboarding cycle and retention, and creating a beautiful product that people love to use that has a use case. So that's piece number 2. Piece number 3 is, I think if you look at what was maybe an initial driver of demand for DeFi, 1 year, 2 years ago, it was a lot of, people were looking at these high APRs, and they were excited about these tokens, and then that just drove a lot of speculative behavior and forks, et cetera. And I think, for a lot of people, that mania was definitively unsustainable. And so I think it's really finding product market fit and finding use cases that are sustainable is, a challenge that everyone collectively has to focus on. The last piece that I think will really unlock kind of the next wave of 100 million or a billion users in DeFi is really leaning into this concept of community control and the DAOification of DeFi. I think unlike Web 2 products, where a lot of the decisions are getting made by a company, a centralized organization, a centralized entity, these tokens that represent governance rights around the product, around a community treasury, really allow for greater alignment of interest between the ultimate users of the product or the protocol and those developing it. And so I think a world where your users are love your product, are incentivized to provide feedback, to validate, to secure the network or secure their product is really the way that you get more people to use a product in an organic manner. So personally excited to see how DAOs continue to evolve. I think we're still early from that standpoint, but I think that'll be a big driver for mass user adoption going forward.
Yeah, I think if the DeFi or this technology is useful, or they somehow improve the people how to work together or communicate together to gain efficiency, they will improve itself. The time will improve itself. So when I see, for example, every powerful technology or services or tools come out, they have some phases. You will see, okay, this technology like phone call or internet is very convenient. Someone will use that to leverage the information asymmetry to scam people, right? So the people will be scammed and they will hurt. And if this damage is too big, the governments will jump out to do some regulation or educate how people use this, or educate how to know about this technology. You need to be careful of something, right? And people will learn. And the mass adoption, people will learn. And the new company will develop new services. Maybe improve the user experience and educate how people use this. And this technology keep involved. So I think the whole thing is, if this technology is useful, it will be improved itself. So someone like us, like us and like David, they were doing maybe DeFi is very hard to understand. We use the CeFi and DeFi, we mix them. We use the CDeFi to allow people use this very convenience, even they don't know what is DeFi is. So for example, we use the internet every day, right? We have a phone, but we don't know how the internet works. You have the SIM card. Do you know what it is in the SIM card? No, you just put it in and you connect the Wi-Fi and use this. So in the future, I think the DeFi technology, the mass adoption people don't need to know how it works. So that's what I think. So the education, the user experience, the regulations will improve the DeFi. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I could also summarize like I'm not that hopeless as I'm not that feeling that hopeless as David is feeling. Like my parents, they learned to use Android and iPhone smartphones. I mean, it took 10 years from then, but in the end they learned to use them. So with the time and education, we will teach people. They will learn to understand what's a private key and not to share it with anybody. And what comes to scams as well, like early 2000 we had a boom of scams, like when the email came to the people, they were getting these emails that, hey, I'm a prince from Africa, can you send me money? And people were sending money, so that happened, but it doesn't happen anymore, so people learned that that's not the real thing, and I think it's going to happen in crypto as well, that people learn, if nothing else, then hard way. And the problems are actually not that big as they seem to be, because with time and with education, things will get better. It takes time, but it's going to better direction.
Yeah, and also people learn from this 3AC, Celsius, Voyager. They will need to know how this company, how much asset they have in hands, right? The collateral ratio is important. People will learn, so the rest of the company will improve. Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite sure myself that there's not going to be a algo stablecoin similar to a Terra USD anymore ever again. So everybody learned their lesson at the first time.
One more part I would like to add on the topic of the mobile phone. That actually crypto is being built for PC users, laptop users. World has moved to mobiles, and out of the 1.7 billion unbanked people, 1 billion people have mobile phones. So actually that is where I believe that is an important part as well for the crypto market, to start building with mobile first approach. All the MetaMask users here would know that how difficult it was to use MetaMask on the mobile phone just some time back. So that's one, if developers are here in this room, that is one thing I would like to add, build for the mobile first people, because that is where the world has moved to, on that topic of Android and iOS applications.
All right, so we have some time left, and I think we can have the final prepared question. That's my favorite question, and usually I would ask when moon, but I think moon is not going to come any time this year, and maybe next year either. So, but let's ask the same question in a little bit subtle way, like what's your favorite project or token, and can you shill it a bit, and maybe Wilson can shill his tokens first.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from the XY Finance. Our token symbol is XY. Yeah, released on the Polygon and Ethereum, and also this on the Get.io and Maxi. Yeah, and some exchanges you can search on the CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. And what XY doing, as I said, is we're doing the cross-chain swap aggregator already launched. Yeah, you type the xy.finance, you can see that. We support any token to any chain swap. So it's very convenient to the DeFi users and the GameFi gamers. When they get a token, they want to cash out. The GameFi, you will play with them or play to when you earn some token, you don't want to cash out. You can use our product to swap with one click to 12 chains. No need to go to the bridge, then swap to the token, and no need to deposit in the centralized exchange and swap and withdraw. It's too time consuming. With our product, you just one click to swap. And also we have the dynamic NFT. We also have the 10K NFT has sold out is our pass in XY ecosystem. With this, you can get some utility on DeFi, and also you can play the game in GameFi. You can have the swap fee discount and something like the airdrop or APY boosting, funding boosting, and all the revenue and swap fee generated by XY Finance product will flow into our DAO reserve, and we have a DAO. We can, by staking our XY token, you can vote for the DAO reserve use. Maybe you will use the buyback by the XY token. This is how we to capture the value of this. So when our product is used by the GameFi project, they use our dynamic NFT every time they need to pay USDC, ETH, or XY token. That's how we capture the real life demand value to turn back to our token price. That's how we do. So yeah, check it more. Yeah, the symbol is XY, very simple. Yeah, and you can talk to me if you are the GameFi project. Because I believe the GameFi project, they usually don't have enough Web3 tech or smart contract development abilities. So I'm here to help this Web3 game to issue the NFT, issue the token, breach their NFT, and change their NFT on chain, whatever the game's utility. Yeah, just talk to me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't really want to show other projects, but I'm just going to give like a high-level overview of DYDX and the DYDX token and its role within our ecosystem. So yeah, DYDX is today one of the leading decentralized exchanges offering perpetuals trading. We allow users to go long or short on over 35 markets using USDC as a form of collateral. We support cross-margining with up to 25 times leverage or 20 times leverage. The protocol is fully non-custodial, so you deposit your funds into a smart contract which you control at all times, and then you can trade programmatically. And unlike other types of decentralized exchanges, which are AMMs, DYDX is what's called a central limit order book model. So there's an order book and matching engine, and then settlement on Ethereum. And so we've done over $600 billion in volume in the last 12 months, and one of the largest protocols in the space today. At the foundation, the DYDX Foundation is an independent organization. We headquartered in Switzerland. We're really the entity that issued the DYDX token. And so the DYDX token is a governance token that allows users to participate in governance of the DYDX protocol. For us, we really want to align and distribute tokens to our most active users and traders on the platform, and better align kind of the incentives between our users and who makes decisions around how the protocol is managed and operated. So far, we've distributed tokens to about 50,000 unique addresses. We have a lot of different ways to earn the token, but generally it's around trading on the platform, and then once you have the token, you can participate in governance, you can participate in discussions and forums and make changes to the protocol more broadly. In addition, there's a number of other really cool novel features. The DYDX trading team launched Hedgies, which is a limited collection of 4,200 NFTs that look like hedgehogs. Hedgehogs being like, if you like to hedge your risks, you typically will use perpetuals, and you can earn them through daily trading competitions, or earn them kind of by participating in the community more broadly. So that's kind of the current version of the protocol. The last thing I'll mention is just what the team is currently working on, and so that's version 4 of the protocol. And so DYDX Trading is currently working to launch a fully decentralized DEX on Cosmos, which is set to launch later this year, basically solving for the order book and matching engine, which is currently off-chain, and driving significant progress on kind of the decentralization spectrum. And so once that launches, DYDX token holders will have virtually full control over all aspects of the protocol. And so I spend a lot of my time thinking about the DYDX DAO and how do we empower our community of users to be best positioned to make decisions for the protocol at large.
Well, I don't have any tokens to sell. The reason being our token is not yet listed. And particularly I have a philosophy that the token should not be listed before product market fit. So we will be bringing our token to the market in next 6-9 months time. But people here or anyone can actually become a lender on our protocol. Today you can lend to farmers in India, farmers in Philippines, self-employed people in emerging markets, and that is where you can earn much better yield than, and the yield which comes from economic activity, not from like it will go to moon and the yield will come from there. So people can lend on the protocol, become a lender on karma tokens, which will be giving them benefits. They can become part of the community, contribute towards creating a much better world using decentralized finance space. And for all that, of course, there will be tokens, and when the tokens will be listed, those tokens will be monetizable. At this moment, for example, especially in countries like Japan and other developed world where interest rates are still very low, all this wealth can be channelized to emerging markets like India, Kenya, Philippines, Latin America, and so on through our protocol. And yield will be coming not from something like which we have seen the Ponzi-nomics, but from real economics, and also gives an opportunity to earn tokens for future uses. So that I will say, but other than that, if I have to shill something, I will say in the bear market, go to something which is going to be there for next 5 years, and not something which will be the next shiny things for future. That's all.
When airdrop?
After the IDO.
Darn, that's far away. Okay, I think we are out of questions, so now it's time to questions from the audience, and we should have a nice 10 minutes, so maybe we can start with the questions. Silence. Any questions? I'm not seeing the audience. The lights are shining to my eyes, so I don't see if there are any questions. I think there's something movement there. Maybe there's a question.
Thank you for quite interested talking today. I was quite excited to hear about you guys talking. So my question is, in case of DeFi compared to TradFi, the good point is transparency, but on the other side, there is some, for example, like front running. If there's someone watching out the mempool, and it's some, the biggest amount of transaction will coming into the pool, it could be quite easy to get further, do some front running transaction before that big amount of transaction coming in get into the block. So those kind of negative effect of transparency is there in the DeFi system. So how do you think about those effect or problems?
Yeah, so the question was that about front running, and what the term is in English used is called minor extractable value. Or
Yes.
And personally, I think it's the problem can't be solved technically, but I will let the panelists to answer, and maybe Wilson can go first. Like, what's the
AV problem? Yeah. The ironic way is that our team is also doing AV, but this problem can be solved in two ways, because Ethereum POS is coming up. So in the number two, you can use some tools, some product. As I say, someone will jump out to fix this problem to keep users away from this problem. So you can use the cow.fi. It's a COW.fi. It's a cow.fi. So you can use some kind of this product to do the private transaction to avoid you get sandwiches attack, right? So you can use this. And also I think DYDX is also solve this problem in the future or already. Yeah, I think that all the DEXs they're aware of this problem, and they can use the other technology to solve this problem. So, but my suggestion to the normal users, you can use a cow.fi. Yeah, it's very useful. It's very cool. When issue a transaction, it has a sound like a cow. It's like, oh, it's very cool. You should try it out. Yeah, that's what my answer is.
You are now shilling.
No, I'm not sure. I just share.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, obviously most people would probably say that transparency is good, right? And everyone in this industry generally supports more openness and more transparency. But I think the potential downside of transparency clearly is, like, if it comes at the expense of potentially privacy, right, or individual privacy. And so in the context of traders, or there is some alpha that's generated if you're able to understand transactions and how they flow within the mempool, and if you're a validator and you have even an information edge around a large order, you could potentially trade against that, hence creating what's called minor extractable value. I think that's been an area of research within kind of the community at large for a while now. I think a lot of people have come up with, like, interesting approaches that look at the trade-off again between privacy and openness and scalability and decentralization. And the honest answer is there's no, like, silver lining quite yet. But I do think there's really, really smart researchers that are looking at that problem and trying to come up with creative solutions that help address it in some way, shape, or form. I think from my standpoint, or from a pragmatic standpoint, I think we have to assume that some form of MEV will continue to exist even in the future, and the best thing we can do is to create economic incentives to incentivize, like, validators or miners not to extract that value. I think that's clearly, like, a work in progress, but it is a risk. But I think, it is quantifiable. People are looking at it. And frankly, it also happens in kind of traditional equity markets as well, just in a different format through payment for order flow. So I think for the tech to really scale, you need to fix that and improve it, but I don't see it as, like, a major con relative to alternative systems, at least as of yet.
Well, I have a contrarian view on this. I believe that these sort of MEVs or board-based order-backed, if you have an order book visibility and you are creating trades on that electronically, that actually helps create a much more efficient, liquid and less volatile market. We have seen that happening in the TradFi world as well. The spreads used to be in equities very high before the electronic markets came into picture, and these strategies have been adopted since then. These strategies are today used by high frequency traders as well. The problem happens when there is a interest conflict. For example, miners should not be able to do this because they are getting paid for mining. Exchanges should not be able to do this because they are actually looking at the order book. So there are regulations which are stopping front running today in the traditional finance markets. We need similar regulations, whether self-regulated or whether some regulator regulated, to stop this sort of conflict of interest opportunities. But in my opinion, if you remove that conflict part, and then anybody and everybody out of here can create bots which can help create a much deeper and efficient market, in my opinion, that will be a much better things to do, instead of trying to stop something like an MVP or something like that. My 2 cents.
All right, thank you. And we have
Thank you so much.
3 minutes left, so maybe one more question, quick one. Yeah, please, in front row.
I think that cryptos today are still unstable in terms of price and security. If you boil down your target user base, users without financial knowledge will be forced to participate in the risky crypto market. I think that poor user experience functions as a kind of shield. What do you think about that?
So the question was that because DeFi has so poor or very high technical knowledge required to use DeFi, it's protecting normal everyday users, because it's so hard to use that your grandparents can't lose their money in DeFi. So what do you think about this argument? And maybe Ashish can go first.
Well, we need to remove that part for sure. I mean, and I myself have struggled a lot with that. And there are people who will keep struggling to do that. Simple thing, we gave example of the scams, but even today, after 30 years of internet, we keep forgetting our passwords, right? How will we remember a 12-seed phrase? That's the biggest challenge for everyone. So we need to create solutions and tech solutions which actually make people work on the side of their business what they have been doing. We need to bring technology solutions to them. We don't want them to come to us. That's not it. It's not how it is going to work. Internet really bloomed only when the applications came, and applications came solving people's problem. E-commerce, when you could get food delivered to things, that is when Web 2 technologies really bloomed. Web 3 needs to do that. We need to go to the customer. Not that, oh, please come to us because we will make it good for you. We will educate you or something. Not going to work. We need to create technology solutions which make them forget that, hey, I'm interacting with crypto. I'm interacting with volatility. What they should be looking at, am I interacting with something which gives value to me, my business, my life as of today?
I think we are out of time, so sorry guys. And thank you for everybody, and I guess we'll be here at next to the panel if somebody wants to talk with us, and yeah, thank you for coming.